Hey guys, Sarah Noquette here. Welcome back to our channel. In today's video, I am interviewing the lovely Lindsay Connolly and really highlighting her journey as an online business manager, her experience inside OBM school, and really what a day in the life of hers looks like as an online business manager. Now, before we get into that interview, I wanted to let you know that we are running OBM week this week. Lindsay talks about how she experienced OBM week and how that really kicked off her journey as an OBM. So I wanted to make sure that if you guys are here listening, that you head on over to sarahnoquette.com/OBM-week. We'll leave those details below this video and sign up. If you can't make the calls live, you can get the replays for a limited time. So this event is totally free, and it is really for those of you who are just getting your toes wet with the concept of online business manager, or perhaps you're already an OBM or a VA and you're just wanting to step it up, then you definitely don't want to miss OBM week. Welcome, Lindsay. I'm so excited to have you here. Let's just get right into it. So we want to talk a little bit about your journey as an online business manager. So the lovely Lindsay is part of our OBM school. She is currently wrapping up certification. You have really had an amazing run as an online business manager thus far that we are definitely going to get into. But before we do, can you speak a little bit about your journey as an online business manager and how you found yourself in Belgium?
Yeah. So I'm super excited to be here. Thank you. So my family and I moved to Belgium from New York in January 2020, and I was working in corporate fashion companies at the time. So I left my corporate job, as you can imagine, to move to another country, figure out how to start a life here. And we moved for my husband's job. So I was kind of a little bit out of work, kind of set with a 2-year-old at the time, like trying to get everything situated and set ourselves up in a new country. That was about 6 weeks before the first COVID lockdown.
Wow.
And yeah, so it was a lot of fun. I think COVID has taught all of us, like, we needed to find these kind of balances that existed. In my New York life, I was really running at like 1,000,000 miles an hour. I'd always kind of known I wanted to work for myself in some capacity, but I didn't really ever give myself time or space to like figure out what that actually meant. So when we moved here, it was like, okay, well, corporate's not really an option at the moment because of COVID and because you're so fresh. And I don't speak any other languages besides English. I joined a business mastermind, which ironically, I was like, I don't even know what a mastermind is, but somebody said
like mastermind. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, I was thinking like, they're going to tell me how to start a business and like do all these things. And obviously that's not fully what a mastermind is, which is fine. But the coach of that mastermind was like, you're basically like an OBM. And I was like, what is this thing, OBM? So I'm like frantically Googling, like, what is this OBM thing? And that's really how I found like your space, your community, and all of that. And really started exploring. That was like the beginning of 2021. So started
that coach. Yeah, that's great. I love when people, I hear that all the time where friends or colleagues will say to somebody, you'd make a really great OBM, and then they have to go and like figure out what that means and what that looks like.
I think from the corporate world, at least from my perspective, I didn't have really any idea what was happening in the online space. Like I knew there was people that had businesses in the online space, but like how they ran, I don't know. It was like not even in my like universe at the time. So even coming into this space of like working with a coach and everything was online, like it was all just so strange to me. So I'm like, what is this?
It is totally strange.
I'm like, what is this like online business? What's a VA? What are all these things that you can be like?
Who am I and how do I fit in? So what were some of those compelling things that about the OBM role that you were like, oh, that's me. Oh, I feel that. Like, were there some overarching or overwhelming yeses for you?
Totally. So I was the director of operations and process improvement for these fashion companies that I worked at in corporate. And we do a lot of like project management. Ironically, is now known as launch planning, but I never would have called it that before.
Oh, that's so interesting.
It was like,
Are they taking it? They're taking like a page from our book, I feel like.
Yeah, maybe it's going the opposite way, actually. But as I like started to see some of your content and some of your courses and even other things that I've seen online, I was like, oh, I see. When they say this, it means this in my world. When they say this, it means I was like, I know how to do all this stuff. I had like zero confidence in the beginning and a lot of imposter syndrome because I was like, I don't know what this online world is and like how I even fit into it. But then as you start like kind of understanding like the translations between
peeling back the layers of fun.
Totally. Like this one means this thing. And you're like, oh, I can do this. I do this all the time. I've done this for 20 years. Like this makes sense.
Yeah. This is like, oh, this is so innate to me. And I find, I mean, it was like that for me for sure. And I think more than anything, I was like, OBM, I can really align myself with that because I'm a manager and I'm a leader. I don't want to be somebody's assistant. Definitely want to do more than just project management, although that is a big part of what we do. As OBMs. And for those of you listening, we will link in what is an OBM here naturally, because some of you will find that you want to kind of dig in more and understand the full scope of the role. So that's so interesting to me. So you were told by a coach, sort of like the stars aligned, you found our community, and we'll leave that link down below as well to our Confident OBM community. So what was like your next step?
When you say the stars aligned, it like couldn't have worked out more perfectly. It was like 1 week before OBM week.
Oh, wow.
And that she had told me about this. And I'm like, I did nothing but Google about OBM. I was watching all of your like initial
all of my old unedited bad videos.
It's all the good, but it was all such good stuff. I was coming from nothing. So I was like, ooh, what's this girl talking about? I like it. And then you're like, I'm giving this 4-day workshop of OBM week. And I'm like, well, I work for myself, so I guess I could do it.
Yeah.
And, join the hour each day. And I won the accelerator. And I'm like, this is fate. This is literally
that is fate. Because do you win anything? I've never won anything in my life.
Never. I never win anything. And you were like, Lindsay. And I'm like, and I turned on my camera and I was like, hi. And my son's like, what's happening? And I was like, I don't know. It's so strange.
Oh, I love that.
But no,
I forgot that you won the accelerator. And you know what? Actually, at the time of this video airing, we are actually currently in OBM week. So those of you, you can still sign up and catch those replays.
Do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just
Take
to like
action.
Get an understanding. Because I think like a lot of what I didn't understand, and it's more about talking to people, I think, that are corporate curious, let me say, of like, you don't even know really, like, maybe you're not totally happy in corporate, or like there's
maybe you're in denial. That's okay. We were going to leave you there. You
also, anything. You're just exploring your opportunities, right? And I think that like there's a lot of really amazing transferable information that came out of OBM week that was like, oh yeah. And that's how I started really building my confidence to say like, yeah, you could do this. Like, of course you can do this. This is great.
That warms my heart because that is my intention. If I can just, and literally, no, this is cheesy, but if I can just impact somebody's life, especially a mom who is looking for that flexibility, then I have legit done my job.
Game changer for me. Yeah, really. It's just like things really started to take off, and I definitely by no means is easy.
No, I will never. Not an easy thing.
Starting your own business, running your own business, marketing yourself. Like I'm definitely not like Miss Marketer.
No, me neither. Despite what it looks like online, me neither. Yeah, I'm like very introverted. We are behind the scenes people.
Yeah. So that is one of the biggest challenges I've found is like, how do people know what I'm doing? Besides reaching out to my network, of course, of like old people, but I'm separating a bit. All my old people are mostly corporate people. There's nothing wrong with doing work with corporate people, but also I'm separating into this online space too. And I'm like, I don't even know anybody over here in this online space. That's been one of my biggest challenges. And really one of my main goals for 2022 is like, just get yourself out there. You got to get out of your own way, figure out what platform you want to talk on and just go talk.
And just go and do it. Yeah.
And I think overwhelmed by everyone else.
Yeah. A great book that I'm actually listening to on audio again is Atomic Habits by James, and so that book, and we'll link that below here as well, because I think it's so important to recognize that these small little changes, like even if you just spend like literally 1% more and being consistent, it could be like a Facebook group that perhaps you're a part of or some other community, or a relationship that you are building, and you just every day you like carve away a little bit more and more and more. And that's really all it is. It's just being consistent. I want to rewind a little bit. So after OBM week, you got the prize of you won the spot in the OBM accelerator, which is amazing. So then you just kicked it into high gear. So from that point of just kind of immersing yourself in our world inside of OBM school, how long after that did you start to like get moving as an OBM, land clients and all that good stuff?
It definitely took some time. And I think a lot of it had to do with also my imposter syndrome. So I think coming from the corporate side of things where I was like, yeah, I see the transfer, but I'm like, I'm still scared to talk to these online people because it just seems like I'm the odd one out.
Because there's the framework. It's like, yes, I've got all these transferable skills, but where's the framework? How do I blend this into something that I can like serve on a beautiful platter and have them eat it up?
Yeah. So I think the amazing thing about the accelerator and like all the great information and content that you have in that program is it started to like give me the confidence that as I was reading what you were saying and all the SOPs that you give us and in your videos, I was like, yeah, I would say that same thing. Okay. I understand now how she's saying it and how it's relating. And at that point, then I hired a business coach for one-on-one at that point. And it was like, okay, just go on Instagram and make a story and just talk about what you did today, like from a client perspective.
Right.
And you have to do it to where you feel comfortable, like you don't go out there and think that you're trying to be someone else that you're not. And the hardest part for me was I didn't have a lot of clients in the beginning. So I said like, oh, I don't have any examples that I could even post on Instagram or post on, the stories or whatever. So I just started pretending that I was working in my own company as an OBM and that every activity in the accelerator I was doing to this made up company.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, oh, they're a coach because I don't really know any other online service providers like at that time.
Yeah, well, we've got Dylan.
And now in the OBM certification, I was like, oh, it's perfect. Exactly.
Yeah, of course it is. Here he is. Here they are. Dylan's here.
Yeah, exactly. So really, I'll say that like all of the pieces really fit together for me when I started working in the certification program, because it was even more validation that I knew what I was talking about. And also I could apply those skills to said company.
Right.
Made up company.
So I know because we've worked together closely, I know that you have a very rich corporate background. You are like, even when we had our interview to begin with, I was like, oh, you need to do the OBM thing. So you went directly from corporate into OBMing, because I think this is important to mention here, because a lot of people, including two that I've spoken to just today, we feel sometimes the need to step not just one step back, but like 18 steps back. So you're doing project and operations management in your corporate career. And then what happens is when we start online, we have to start at like a different level, almost going back to virtual assistant or something of that nature. You didn't find that as a pull, or were you like, what's this VA thing? Do I need to do that first?
There was definitely some thoughts in there. It seems like in order to get an OBM client, I need to be a VA first and like part of an agency or something like that. But to be honest with you, I have a more premium rate that I charge, and I'm completely priced out of a VA range. Like I would never get hired as a VA.
Which is so amazing to me. I love that you've always been like, my prices are here.
I have to tell you, and I have to give props to my first business coach. She was like, set the price and don't ever look back. Set the price and don't ever look back. And I was like, I'm worth this. And honestly, I have to coach myself some days to be like, I'm going to put my price down. And it's like, no, you are worth this. What you like bring to these clients into this table is worth this. Don't second guess yourself. I have a lot of mindset issues around like being at the premium level, but being an imposter, but it is possible.
Well, I mean, I think sometimes I'm like, well, it keeps you honest. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's sort of, I think, just part of what we do to ourselves to make ourselves neurotic as well. So it's only natural.
You have to kind of know yourself. So like for me, I know myself that I don't do hourly contracts really. I do project-based contracts or retainer contracts up to a certain like hour range. Mm-hmm. In the end, for me, it's about like bringing value to the client. My biggest joy is like seeing that relief on their face when you,
and they've got
like
all
one
this time
small
back
thing,
and organized.
and they were like, oh my God, how did you do that? This is amazing. And I'm like, that made my whole day and it made everything worth it.
And now write me a testimonial.
But to get them to that point is like the more important thing to me. And I know that if I go over the contract hours, I have to like keep myself in line a bit, but to deliver to the expectation of that, to like get there, and I have to coach myself a lot on this, but that is my goal. And that's why I'm worth it.
I think that's incredible. And, and important to mention here that we don't have to go into your rate because it will change and, but it is over the $100 an hour mark. And it has been from the beginning. I've always really admired and appreciated that angle that you have. And I think it's really important because, for those of us who are scaling a team-based business, which you are, you have to have quote unquote premium pricing. I think it's just regular pricing that affords you the flexibility of bringing on team and having more time with your son. Yeah. And, which brings me to that beautiful question of like, what is your why, for doing all of this?
So the first why is actually me, to be honest. And that might sound very selfish to some.
No, it doesn't at all. I wish there was more of that in this world.
Yeah. I kind of mentioned earlier, I was running at 1,000 miles a minute when I lived in New York. I never stopped. I never turned off my emails. I never turned off notifications. I never even like gave myself a minute to like know myself as a mom. And as like a wife, I got married and I was like, who the heck is this Lindsay Connolly person? And then I became a mom and I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, like, now I'm responsible for the small human being.
Yeah. And you're just in New York, you're just running so fast all the time. And I was like, from here to here to here to here to daycare to that I like, the reason that this became so important for me is that I could make my schedule. I could hold my scope. I could do the things that truly lit me up. And to be honest with you, I'm like a much better mom to my son now.
Oh.
I'm a much better wife. I don't know. You could ask him, but I think I'm a much better wife to my husband. Yeah. I know I'm a much better person to myself.
That's I think the most important because when you're happy, everybody in your life is happy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, the thing that's really amazing about this space that's different from corporate is I found that in corporate, your job can change all the time. And you could have a new thing added to your scope or your job responsibilities literally from one day to the next. And you can't really say much about it. Like, yes, you could resign and find a new job and whatever. In this, like you have a firm, hard contract that says the scope is the following, or I suggest that you should have that.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, but by saying like, we agree to these, 5 objectives. If you're coming in from outside of that, I'm sorry that the answer is no.
Yeah.
And I for sure have to coach myself all the time to be like, say no.
Yeah, that's right. Because people pleaser is our default.
Yeah. And I think you even have it in your like commitment when you want to become an OBM, like no is
nope. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We have our manifesto, our OBM manifesto. No is a complete sentence.
No is a complete sentence. And it's okay to say it, but it's also okay to say it. I think that was kind of the difference where it's like when I came from corporate, it was never okay to say, no, I don't have the bandwidth for this. No, I don't have the team for this. No, I don't have the time for
this.
And
that's such a key distinction of that employee mindset versus the entrepreneur mindset or the leadership, not necessarily leadership, but as an employee, you're like always just doing. And as a entrepreneur, you have to say no. And I know that our OBM clients appreciate when we tell them no.
It's for their own benefit, really, in the grand scheme of it all. Because I think if you're an overworked OBM via anybody, if you're overworked, you're really not giving 100%.
No.
And honestly, the relationship then is probably a bit like turmoiled at that point because you probably get some resentment or some upset, about like the scope creep coming in. And then they're like, why aren't you delivering on this thing you agreed to? And you're like, I actually hate you now.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, Wait, how did we get here?
This is what I think about you.
Yeah. You're like, you were my best client. How did we end up here? And it's like scope creep.
I know.
Say no to scope creep.
That's so true. Say no to scope creep. Yeah, it just really does screw things up all together. So you came from corporate to the OBM space. What did you bring with you from your corporate job? Like you had
from a knowledge perspective?
Well, not from a knowledge perspective, because I know that because we've worked together. I would just want to highlight here that special sort of energy you have, because there is this notion that an online business manager works with online businesses only. I want to shout it from the rooftops that actually, no, we work remotely and we're not in the office. We're online in that sense, but we work with all kinds of clients. And the reason why I was like, we have to talk to Lindsay is because you're working with mainly, I know it's changed recently, but mainly corporate.
Yeah.
Your past corporate contacts.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of my initial connections and contracts were with corporate companies. And I will tell you that is a lot of how I got my mindset strength around saying no, because it's very hard to work with your former employers or former colleagues and that kind of thing and be able to kind of hold scope. But yeah, there is a place in this world where operations departments and operations teams and all of that can be run from an online space in the corporate world. And you still have boundaries and you're still working as in your own business, in your own space. It is possible. That's how I've built my business over the last year, to be honest with you. So it's the main revenue driver for me.
Which is incredible. I think that is so inspiring for me. And I think for a lot of our listeners, because there's a lot of people that are in corporate now and thinking to themselves, I'm ready to do the OBM thing. I'm not really sure what my niche is going to look like. I'm not really sure what X, Y, and Z is going to look like, but I'm ready to do this. So recently you have started working with different, I think more traditional OBM clients. So how did that come about?
The first non-corporate client, let me say, was actually a food truck. So that was a little bit of a hybrid. So their whole event planning was online, but obviously physically they were somewhere. And then now I'm actually with a client that is fully online based. So we're doing the full course thing online.
And he's in Belgium, right?
He's in Belgium.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, because I do remember you mentioning that. Ooh, because people are like, Europeans don't have online businesses. I'm like, yeah, they do.
And it's so funny. They just don't call them the same thing here yet. So it's really, I'd love to be introducing this term, online business manager.
Yeah. That's a great Instagram live to talk about that.
Yeah.
Right
exactly.
There.
If you're kind of scared of how you figure out how to transition over, you never know what your company is going to say. They really value you. And if you have a feeling of wanting to start your own business or kind of live by your own design kind of thing, and you're in this kind of more project management, operations type role, something like that, it wouldn't hurt for you to give it a shot to say, what does it look like if I was working only 20 hours a week, for example, in this same kind of role,
capacity.
But I have an opportunity of learning this OBM thing and I'm not working for you full time. And corporations have a lot of benefits for you to not be working full time. I know there's some liabilities, but and you can start kind of learning and growing in that way. And then from that really gave me the ideas of how I got non-corporate clients, because I was like, wow, if these people are having these problems, so are these people. And really all of our problems are the same, regardless of the type of business and industry that we're in.
As long as it's a proven business model.
Yeah.
And the entrepreneur has that mindset for delegation and there's revenue coming, there's no reason why we can't fit ourselves in there in some way.
Yeah. And in the end, I've found that 60 to 70% of all operations, regardless of the type of industry it is mostly the same. It's a lot of the same activities. I mean, yes, one business might do these 3 things and this guy over here doesn't do that. And so, it's a copy and paste kind of activity. But I got a lot of questions in the first year, what's your niche? What's your niche? And I'm like, I'm not worried about a niche.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Yeah, because you don't need to worry about a niche.
Yeah.
I feel like we always want to get to the finish line and I'm like, enjoy it. After more than a decade of being an OBM, I'm still like, maybe I niche on business size, but that's about it, on industry size and maybe how many employees or team members this client has. But I mean, that's part of the beauty, I think, of being an OBM is being able to choose and work with different industries. Because otherwise life gets boring. And that's why we left corporate to begin with. Let's be honest.
Totally. And I was going to say the same thing is like, I actually get a little bit irritated when people are like, what's your industry niche? And I'm like, I don't have one. You want to know why? I love everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, okay, I don't love everyone, but you know what I mean? I love
business.
All different kinds of business. I want to know about the food truck and I don't know how food trucks work. Cool. Tell me about it. I want to know about the finance guy. I want to know about the coach. I want to know about the graphic designer.
Yeah. And I think, there's, one of the things I learned way back when was, when you have a competitive advantage in any business, it's because you've adapted something from a completely different industry. So when we're able to sort of cross-pollinate all of these different businesses with these ideas, it really leads to having new information, new competitive advantage. It's just a beautiful thing. So I love that you're saying this because I have exactly the same sentiment when it comes to those things. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to pigeonhole myself. No.
But I think like when you first come into your business, it's very easy because there's so many people out there that are like, what's the niche? What's the niche? And you're just like, your brain can get so overwhelmed by watching what everyone else is doing because there's just so much information. You don't even know where to start, really. Or at least this is how I felt. Like, there was just nonstop info, questions. And
then you're getting retargeted by ads because you said something out loud next to your phone. Yeah.
I know, exactly. And I'm like, I don't know the answer to that question. And honestly, like the business really started when I was like, everybody shut up and just let me be honest with myself. I know what I need to do. I know how to start a business. I know how to run a business. I know how to take the information and piece it together to a thing that feels right for me.
For you.
Stop with all the other stuff and just be honest with yourself, Lindsay, because you know what to do.
Right.
And really, it was like very transformational for me. It was like my mini breakthrough where I was like, things make sense now. It's starting to click. Just be honest with yourself.
At what point were you in the journey? Like like a year in, 6 months in?
It was like a year later.
Yeah, no, totally.
Because I think
it's important in our day in the life to highlight that. I say to people all the time, they ask me, well, how long is the accelerator? Well, it's a 12-week module drip, but the program is 6 months and it's going to take you at least that, if not longer, to make this work for yourself.
Yes, for sure. And there's like the program is so jam-packed, which is amazing. It was so overwhelming at first that I was like, okay, save this one because eventually you're going to have to do this thing. Right. But not right now. You're not, I'm trying to think of, you're not onboarding a client at this moment. So just put that one on the side for a second.
Right.
So now my process actually has been, okay, here I'm at this stepping stone in my business. How do you want to do it, Lindsay? Okay. XYZ. Now I'll go see what Sarah did. Just curious. Maybe Sarah had something that I missed, or maybe like I had something that she missed. And then I was like, okay, how can I make it melded together that feels good and right to me and how I want to like present myself to the world? And that I found is like my secret sauce of like your genius that you've given us, and like my own genius, like melding together to be like exactly how I want my business and myself to be portrayed.
I want to talk a little bit here around what a day in the life looks like in the Lindsay household, from the time you drop off that little angel to the time you tuck him in at nighttime.
So, so I actually kind of start my weeks on Sunday mornings. I try to get up before the family if I'm lucky. And I'll take 45 minutes to an hour to just look at the next week. And the first thing on the list is like, what's coming up from a personal perspective of the week? Like, does my son have an activity after school? Who's cooking dinner? Do I need my husband to help me with pickups certain days? Can he do it? Who has night meetings? I mean, my husband works a corporate job. at the moment. So I have East Coast clients of the United States, and he also has US colleagues. We have night meetings. And so we try to like balance, like, oh, okay, you have a night meeting on Monday, so I'm going to block my calendar. All right, I'm going to have night meetings on Wednesdays. So on Sundays, really, we're doing like, what's our family going to do?
That's so, I love that.
Yeah, thank you. And then Monday morning, like when I drop my son off at school, I don't do anything before, like when he gets dropped off, then I'm like, okay, sit in your office.
No, then you have to have like 10 coffees and be like, I'm by myself.
I know. I at least need a 5-minute like dance party about I'm by myself finally for the first time in the week. You know, then I'm looking at the calendar and I'm like, okay, I set up my calendars. I put like a time blocking Google Calendar separately. So what I do is block reoccurring meetings for what days I'm going to be working on what clients. So typically I have like 1 to 3 hour time blocks named in this like, you know, special Google Calendar for when I'll be working on that client's activities. I have a love-hate relationship with time blocking, but it really has like helped keep me on track.
Because you're like, but there's not enough time in the day.
But then I was like, wow, look at all the stuff you got done. Like there actually is if you focus.
Well,
right?
It's Parkinson's law, right? If you have the whole day, it's going to take the whole day. If you allot yourself 3 hours, you're going to get it done in 3 hours.
Yeah, totally. So I end up like, you know, shifting around if the client asks for a meeting and whatever, but I try to keep Mondays and Fridays completely meeting free if possible. Fridays is always a 3-hour time block for CEO time. So it's only working on my business.
Yes.
Nothing else. And like, if somebody tries to block over that time, it's like moved to
your husband's like date.
And I'm like, no,
sweetheart.
You can come at 6 o'clock. You can come, 5 o'clock, whatever. But you know, besides that, then I have like for sure blocked out. I drop off my son between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock every morning. I pick up my son between 4:30 or 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock every day. I'm at dinner until 8 o'clock. It would be a very big exception for you to get me on the phone from between 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock my time.
Yeah.
That's my family time. That's dinner time. That's like, I don't look at my phone. And that's
protected time.
Protected time. And that's like the baseline of the calendar. Like if any of those things have to move, my son has to be picked up early for whatever reason, and he can't go to the daycare after school. Everything shifts to accommodate all of the family time.
Yeah.
That's also why I love this. That's also why I love this opportunity too. Is like, it just, that never would have existed before.
Yeah, it's just magical. I love the time blocking thing because time blocking is definitely where it's at. So, Lindsay, how many clients are on your roster currently?
3.
So, like, how many hours would you say you work on client stuff in a week?
In a week, probably like 25 hours.
So 25 hours. So like you're pretty much working 25. Like 5 to 6 hours a day because, you know, Mondays and Fridays, you're not doing the meetings, which I love. I think it's so important to say here that, you know, we don't need to show up every day for meetings. Like Mondays and Tuesdays are the only days a week that I actually do meetings. I mean, I'm in my pajamas most of the time anyways, but there's a certain mindset that you have to get into before you have a meeting. You know, I don't know if you like, it's just, I don't know. It's like, it's hard for me sometimes to get into that mood or into that mindset. So I love that you've mentioned that. And then when you are working on client stuff, 5 hours a day, let's say on average, what kinds of things are you doing? Because I think people sometimes are like, what does an OBM do? Like, what does that look like?
So it's different. Okay. So in my with the corporate client, I'm helping introduce these best practices of the OBM space into the corporate environment. So there's exactly, that's like the biggest one, right? Like, yes, there was some click through guides that was like, click here to do this specific action. But in their equivalent of a launch plan, there was not process documents like lined up. In the fashion industry, you call it a go-to-market calendar when you bring your product to market. There's like 100 activities that have to happen in order for you to get clothes in a store, let's say. And it's, you know, you calculate the whole calendar, and there was a lot of like kind of subjectivity and emotion around it, and not just around like true calculated dates. So I've been like creating for that space, number one, a calculation. So it's like, if we're going to change this date, This is how everything shifts because everything is calculated based on dependencies.
Right.
It's kind of like, if you know project management, that's kind of traditional project management thinking.
So a lot of project management SOPs baking out for those corporate
Yes.
clients.
Now we're going like, what does this line item say? Okay, what is the exact SOP that goes with this line item? And we're linking it up and we're doing exactly that. I want the click-throughs. I want to like know why I'm doing it, who's involved. And that's really one of the big things I think that was like, we all probably knew it in corporate, but we never gave the time to do it.
Right.
So the beauty of this space is you don't have someone coming to your desk all the time. You don't have somebody interrupting you. You're not nonstop on meetings.
Right. And you're enough in the big picture to know why you're doing the things. When I was in corporate, my boss used to say to me all the time, well, just come up with a strategy for that. Well, how can I come up with a strategy if I don't know what the big picture is here? I don't know where we're going. I don't have those details.
The separation from like physically being there with people in the office, if people are going back to the office, like really does change things as well. Like I'm not in any of the bureaucracy. I'm not in any of the gossip. I'm not in any of the other stuff that can like take away time from the day.
Yeah. Like hanging out in the cookie corner all afternoon.
Yeah. You know, the cookies are always good, but you know, in the end, like you're not getting shit done.
Right.
So like in this kind of space, you're able to take the best practice of like, how do I get shit done?
Yeah.
And give it to them. So that's like the corporate world. And I think there's a lot of opportunities there.
Systems and project management. There's never an end to that. I think a lot of the times as OBMs, when we're managing projects, we're like, well, it's so natural for me to organize things or to put things into a project management tool. You know, I think oftentimes like that's the work of an OBM. Like that's exactly what it is. It's a lot of project and team management and, you know, helping that client get clear about their ideas as well and being that sounding board.
I think that that's like the biggest thing in the not. So now if we switch to the non-corporate. Every business owner that I've worked with has this like great vision of how it works. And the beauty of being an OBM coming into their business is you have the outsider's perspective. So you say, okay, I see that you want like these things to happen. I'm going to ask you all the questions because you don't think to ask yourself. You're doing things and you don't realize that you're doing them in a reoccurring fashion or even just like, let's say you're going to launch a course. That doesn't happen frequently, but you don't realize what you're doing as the business owner sometimes to launch the course. If I'm sitting here and watching you, or I have no idea what your course is about, I'm going to ask you so many questions that ultimately will lead towards all those SOPs so that we can do it better the next time and faster.
And clear goals and a clear strategy. Like let's get it all out on the table. Let's set the client's expectations so that they're realistic. You know, you want to launch? Great. We're going to launch that in 2 months, not next week.
Right. Yes. Well, there's definitely that
because, you know, you've got all these goals. That's great. You know, I want to make this happen and make this the best launch ever.
One of them has been launch planning that I've been doing with a lot of client, which
I think, project number 3 in the certification.
Yeah. Which, you know, what's a lot of fun is like being able to, it's a lot of fun for me. I know a lot of people are like, no launch planning. And I'm like,
no, launches can be fun. Everything is a launch too. Like you said it yourself at the beginning. Yeah. We're calling project management launch something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what is that? Okay, it makes sense.
Just see launches. Yeah.
A launch is just managing a project. That's all it is.
It sounds scarier,
but it's
scary. Not. Don't be scared of launches.
Don't get wrapped up in that. You know, don't go down that road with your client.
No, but you might, even if you take like, so if I go to the food truck as an example, they had nothing to do with launches, but what they wanted to do was automate some of their processes in a better way than manually like getting an email from a client and manually putting their name in Google contacts and then manually having it in this other, you know, reconciliation. And
automations are great.
Yeah. The business owner was like, I know there's a way.
Yeah.
I just don't have time to do it.
Yeah. And it's not my zone of genius.
Yeah. And I was like, let's just get in here. Let's talk about the end goal, like how you envision it. And then let's just back it out from there. That in and of itself is a launch of like getting to the final point of automation. To me, those are the things like you automate one thing for someone and they were like, oh, like someone on their team, their whole mind is completely blown. And I'm like, I love that. That is what I live for.
Yeah, exactly.
See that look on someone's face, like,
so like, the The breakthrough moment.
You just saved me an hour. And I'm like,
yeah. It's so good. Yeah. I love that as well. It's just it's like the nod towards the, like, you're in your zone of genius, Lindsay. You're doing what you should be doing. Totally. And you're having a really great impact on people.
Yeah. I think that's a really good thing to bring up too, is like, I struggled a lot with going like, this is really easy for me, so it must be easy for other people. Oh, yeah. And it's not. And and I think recognizing like, it's easy for me, so let me just help you. Not everybody is ready to accept help as a business owner. Some people are still trying to figure it out on their own, which is totally
fine.
Do you when you're and when you're ready, just know like there are people in the world
who really geek out on this shit. Yeah.
I mean, really, it's like I had a conversation with a friend and I was like working on this launch plan. I was like, oh my God, it's so exciting. And she was like, why are we talking about this? And I'm like, I am so excited. Yeah.
You're like cracking open that bottle of wine, pouring yourself a glass of wine and working on a launch plan. I have to literally tell people this. I'm like, public service announcement. Just because project management and organization and being, maybe a people pleaser also, but like, being very like empathetic, let's say, towards people, just because you're like that doesn't mean that you shouldn't charge for it or you should give that away for free. That's actually what you need to charge premium rates for, because that's your zone of genius.
Yes.
It's so important.
It is. And it's really easy, I think, when you come into this online space that you're like, but it's easy for everyone. So I don't need to charge for it.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, it only takes me 3 minutes to do it. And I was like, yes, but it took that person 3 hours to do it. So like,
and they still didn't get it right. And they're not sure if it's actually working. They have no way of testing it.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Right. And it maybe if it's something recurring, like, they don't even remember to go check it next week or next month.
Exactly. Or they're sitting up in bed all night being like, oh my God, did this get done? Did that get done? Oh like people ask me like, well, where do you find OBM clients? Well, they're usually disheveled. They're usually exhausted, because they're doing all the things. And it's terrible because there's so much of this that falls into our zone of genius where we can really, really support them.
Yeah. I mean, one of my biggest goals of this business is like, people would say like, how do you want to help people? How do you want to serve people? I'm like, I don't know. And it's just even recently only come into clarity for me where it's like, you know what? I want to help people sleep. Yeah. I want to help people if they have family, friends, kids, dogs, like whatever.
Balance.
Whoever your like, people are that you want to be spending your time with, like, I want you back with them for as much time as you can, but like, let's run a successful business. Let's make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And let's like enjoy being humans.
Yes.
In life.
So true.
And not behind a computer like all day. Let's enjoy our lives.
Yeah. Let's enjoy our lives. Which brings me to my final question. If somebody came up to you and said, Lindsay, I'm thinking about being an OBM. What words of advice do you have to give me? What would you tell somebody who's like thinking about it, but maybe hasn't yet taken the leap?
The curious ones. The
curious ones. Like, can I do this? Do I have what it takes?
Yes, you do. That's number one. Tell yourself yes, but give yourself space and grace, which is like
space and grace.
Like, don't just run in to do it because we're talking about it here, or you saw it on Instagram, or you saw it, whatever. And like, you think it's the next thing to do, whatever. If this is resonating with you, if anything that we said is resonating, like, you're going to get there and this is the right space for you. You just need to let yourself absorb it, and you have to give yourself time to like feel it, absorb it, listen to the videos, do the free stuff. Like, it's an amazing OBM week.
OBM week is on.
And I'm not trying to like pitch your program or anything, but saying like, just take an hour each day. You don't have to come on off of mute. You don't have to put your video on if you're not comfortable.
Yeah.
Just listen to it and like absorb it. Let your mind think about it, ideate it around it.
Give yourself time.
Yes. Give yourself time. We never give ourselves enough time.
No, we don't give ourselves time. Or we expect to, well, what do you mean? I have to spend time learning something new? Oh, that freaks me out. Like, I get that too.
It's going to make sense when it makes sense. And it's going to make sense at a different time for you than it did for me, than it did for you, than it's going to be for someone else. Like, just give yourself space. Be honest with yourself if like this is right or not right. Trust yourself.
I love that. And it's so, so important. Thank you, Lindsay. I really appreciate you taking the time today to share your experience, a day in the life of an OBM.
Yeah.
For those listening here, I know we've got a lot of clients that find these videos. If you're looking to hire an OBM, where can they learn more about you, Lindsay?
Yeah, my website is www.lindsayconnollyconsulting.com. Maybe we can drop it because my last name.
Oh yeah,
crazy.
definitely. We'll make sure that we post that below on the blog.
And Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, Lindsay Connolly Consulting.
Yay. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you so much. This was fun.